Welcome to In-Silico Trials Real Impact, the In-Silico UK podcast that's revolutionizing the way we think about medical innovation. I'm Professor Alejandro Frangi from the University of Manchester, and I'll be your guide through this fascinating world of in-silico technologies. In each episode, we'll dive into cutting-edge research and groundbreaking news that are shaping the future of medical product development and regulation. From computational modeling to simulated clinical trials, we are exploring how digital approaches are transforming healthcare, making it safer, more efficient, more equitable, and incredibly precise. So, whether you're a researcher, regulator, a member of the public, or a patient representative, or simply curious about the future of medicine, tune in as we unravel the complex world of in-silico methods and their real-world impact. Get ready to discover how computer-simulated trials are leading to very real breakthroughs in patient care. In-Silico Trials Real Impact, where algorithms and data are saving lives. Let's begin.
Buckle up, everybody, because today we're taking a deep dive into UK medicine regulation. And let me tell you, it's a hot topic right now. Talk about perfect timing.
It really is. There's so much happening. Like, we've got this new report from the ABPI, the Association of the British Pharmaceutical Industry. It's called Enhancing the Role of UK Medicines Regulation. And it really gives us a peek into, how pharmaceutical companies are feeling about the MHRA these days.
The MHRA being the UK's medicines regulator, of course.
Right.
And speaking of big news in the UK, we've got Baroness Merron, the Parliamentary Undersecretary of State, announcing some brand new clinical trials regulations just this week.
Wow, talk about a 1-2 punch. It really does feel like everyone's laser focused on making the UK the place to be for developing new medicines.
It does, doesn't it? So let's dig into that ABPI report first. They seem to have a lot of good things to say about the MHRA's expertise. But they also point out some areas where they think things could be improved.
Yeah, they don't hold back. Predictability, transparency, resourcing, those are the biggies they're calling out.
And I got to say, that word disincentive really jumped out at me. They're basically saying that these challenges are making companies think twice about investing in the UK. And get this, the report says 68% of companies involved in investment decisions find the UK regulatory environment unfavorable right now.
Wow, that's a big number.
It is. It's a serious concern.
For sure. And it's interesting to think about this in the context of what happened back in 2019. Remember when the MHRA lost its trading fund status?
Oh, yeah.
Now, you might be wondering what that even means, but it's actually pretty important.
Yeah, break that down for us.
Okay, so basically imagine the MHRA being able to operate more like a business. A trading fund lets them keep the income they generate from fees and then reinvest it back into their own operations.
So without it, they're at the mercy of government funding.
Exactly.
Right.
Which, as we all know, can be a bit unpredictable.
To say the least.
It makes it hard to plan for the future or, invest in the things you need to stay competitive.
Like trying to run a marathon with your shoelaces tied together.
Yeah, something like that.
And the ABPI is suggesting that this might be a big part of the resourcing challenges the MHRA is facing. Without that steady stream of income, it's got to be tough to attract top talent, keep up with all the scientific advancements, and provide the kind of service that pharmaceutical companies are looking for.
It's like they're being asked to cook a gourmet meal with one hand tied behind their back.
Right. And let's not forget, these concerns are coming directly from the companies who are working to bring us those next-generation life-saving treatments.
Exactly. If they're hesitant about the UK, that's a big red flag.
Absolutely. But before we go down that rabbit hole, let's shift gears for a sec and talk about that exciting news from Baroness Merron. New clinical trial regulations, hot off the presses.
Yeah, this is big. This is the biggest reform we've seen in over 20 years.
Really?
It's all about making the UK the destination for clinical trials, while, of course, keeping patient safety front and center.
I like the sound of that.
Yeah, it's about finding that sweet spot between attracting research and making sure that patients are protected.
Well said. And Baroness Merron's statement was full of optimism. She talked about streamlining the application process, making the system more adaptable, and creating more transparency for patients. It seems like a breath of fresh air.
I think so, too. And, when you look closely, you can really see how these reforms are trying to address those concerns from the ABPI.
It's like they're saying, we hear you and we're on it.
Exactly.
So let's unpack some of those changes a bit. Baroness Merron keeps talking about a more proportionate regulatory environment. What does that actually mean?
Well, think of it this way. Not all trials are created equal, right? A low-risk trial testing a minor tweak to an existing drug, that shouldn't face the same hurdles as, groundbreaking gene therapy trial.
Right. Makes sense.
So proportionate regulation basically means tailoring the level of scrutiny to the level of risk involved.
Okay, so it's all about using resources wisely and making sure that the truly innovative, potentially higher-risk trials get the attention they need.
Exactly.
But doesn't that create more work for the MHRA? How do they decide where to focus their energy?
Well, that's definitely a challenge. And actually, the ABPI report specifically recommends reviewing the MHRA's recent restructuring to see if it's actually hindering their ability to handle this kind of complexity.
Interesting.
But the idea is that a more targeted approach can actually make the whole system more efficient.
Okay, so it's not just about having more resources. It's about using the resources they have more strategically.
Now you're getting it.
Smart.
Very smart.
Okay, so we've got proportionate regulation. What else is on the table?
Well, Baroness Merron also talked about tapping into external expertise, specifically on regulatory innovation.
Oh, now this sounds interesting.
Right. So think about all the advancements happening in data science, artificial intelligence, digital health technologies. The MHRA can't be experts in everything.
Of course not.
So by bringing in outside perspectives, they can stay ahead of the curve and incorporate the latest innovations into their regulatory processes.
I see. It's like bringing in a tech consultant to help your grandma set up her new smartphone.
Exactly. Sometimes you need a fresh pair of eyes. And this actually links to another key point, the need for better knowledge transfer.
Oh, yeah. The ABPI report talked about that, too. They basically said communication needs to be a two-way street.
Right. Companies want to understand the MHRA's thinking, and the MHRA needs to be receptive to feedback from the industry.
It's all about creating that dialogue, that sense of partnership.
Exactly.
Instead of just having a regulator dictating from on high.
Right. That open flow of information is so important for building trust and making sure that the regulatory system is truly responsive to everyone's needs.
I'm starting to see a pattern here. Both the ABPI and Baroness Merron seem to be pushing for a more agile, collaborative, and forward-thinking MHRA.
I think you're right. It's like they're trying to shake things up a bit.
And inject some new energy into the system.
Exactly. Which is exactly what's needed if the UK wants to stay a global leader in life sciences.
Well said. The world is watching.
That's for sure. High stakes for sure.
They are. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. We still got a lot to unpack from the ABPI report. They had a lot of specific recommendations.
Oh, yeah, they did.
So let's dive into those. What were some of the key things they're calling for?
Well, one of the big ones was about strengthening accountability. Making sure that the MHRA is actually delivering on these promises.
Accountability.
Yeah, they basically said, don't just announce reforms and hope for the best. You need ways to track progress, measure results, and hold people accountable for actually making these changes happen.
Makes sense. It's like setting ambitious goals but not having a plan to achieve them.
Right.
You need those milestones, those benchmarks, and ways to course correct if things aren't moving in the right direction.
Exactly. And it's not just about internal accountability either. The ABPI is also calling for more transparency in how the MHRA measures its own performance.
So like making their metrics public, sharing their progress reports.
Exactly. It's all about building trust and showing that they're serious about improving things.
It's like that old saying, actions speak louder than words.
Right. And remember that statistic we talked about? About 68% of companies finding the UK regulatory environment unfavorable?
Oh, yeah.
Imagine if the MHRA could actually show that they're making progress on that they're addressing those concerns.
It would be huge.
It would send a powerful message.
Like they're putting their money where their mouth is.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got accountability and transparency. What else did Baroness Merron talk about?
Well, one of the things that really stuck with me was her emphasis on moving away from that one-size-fits-all approach.
Oh, yeah. She talked about that a lot.
It's this idea of proportionate regulation that we touched on earlier.
Right. Tailoring the level of scrutiny to the level of risks.
Exactly.
But she really drilled down into the specifics this time.
She did.
She talked about streamlining the application process, making the system more adaptable to different types of trials.
Right.
And creating more transparency for patients.
All really important stuff.
It sounds like they're really trying to make the process as smooth and efficient as possible without, compromising on safety, of course.
Exactly. And she gave some really interesting examples.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
Well, she talked about how a trial testing a new digital health app, that might need a different regulatory pathway than a traditional drug trial.
Interesting.
It's about recognizing that innovation is happening in all sorts of different areas, and the regulatory system needs to be flexible enough to keep up.
That's a great point. We're not just talking about pills and potions anymore.
Right.
The world of medicine is expanding so rapidly.
It is.
And the regulations need to reflect that.
Absolutely. And this actually brings us to another key point from both Baroness Merron and the ABPI report: the need for horizon scanning and strategic planning.
Ah, yes, looking ahead, anticipating those future challenges.
Exactly. And making sure that the MHRA is prepared for what's coming next.
So not just reacting to the latest trends, but actually trying to shape the future.
Now you're getting it.
It's like playing chess instead of checkers.
I like that.
You're thinking several moves ahead.
Exactly. And the ABPI actually suggests that the MHRA should create a dedicated team, focus solely on horizon scanning and strategic planning.
Oh, wow, a whole team.
They argue that this would help the MHRA stay ahead of the curve and proactively address those emerging challenges.
Instead of always playing catch-up,
Right.
it's like having a research and development department for regulation itself.
Exactly. Always looking for ways to improve, innovate, and stay one step ahead.
I love it.
And this ties into Baroness Merron's point about Brexit. Using the UK's exit from the EU as an opportunity to build a truly world-leading regulatory system.
Oh, yeah, she talked about that.
It's about being bold, ambitious, and setting a new standard.
It's like a fresh start, a chance to reimagine what medicine regulation can be.
Exactly.
And she specifically mentioned those new clinical trial regulations as a key part of this vision.
She did.
She talked about making the UK the most attractive place in the world to conduct clinical trials.
Which would have huge benefits for everyone: patients, researchers, the economy.
It's like creating a virtuous cycle.
It is.
You attract more trials, you generate more data, you accelerate innovation.
And ultimately, you bring new treatments to patients faster.
Exactly.
And she highlighted some really interesting changes that are aimed at making the UK more competitive.
Like what?
Well, for example, she talked about simplifying the process for international sponsors to bring their trials to the UK.
So making it easier for researchers from all over the world to come here.
Exactly. It's like rolling out the red carpet.
And saying, hey, come to the UK. We've got what you need.
Exactly. And it's not just about attracting international trials either. It's also about making sure that UK patients have access to the latest treatments.
Right, not leaving anyone behind.
Exactly. She talked about how these new regulations will help ensure that UK patients aren't left behind.
When it comes to accessing those innovative therapies.
Exactly.
So it's about being a global leader, but also putting the needs of UK patients first.
It's all about finding that balance.
Speaking of balance, let's not forget about the elephant in the room. The MHRA's funding.
Oh, yeah.
The ABPI report had a pretty bold suggestion there.
They did, didn't they?
They actually suggested that the MHRA consider reinstating its trading fund status.
Wow.
Big ask.
Eh.
But could it be the answer?
It's certainly a conversation worth having.
Right.
Imagine if the MHRA had that financial stability and autonomy again.
They could really invest in those strategic priorities.
They could. They could attract and retain top talent and build a truly world-class regulatory system.
It's like giving them the keys to the kingdom.
Yeah, something like that.
But of course, it's not a simple decision.
No, it's not.
There are a lot of factors to consider. Political considerations, budgetary constraints.
All of that.
But if the goal is to make the UK a global leader in life sciences, wouldn't investing in the MHRA be a smart move?
It would. It's about recognizing that a strong regulator is essential for a thriving industry.
And it's not just about the industry, it's about the patients.
Absolutely. A well-funded, well-equipped MHRA can ensure that new treatments are evaluated rigorously, approved quickly, and made available to those who need them.
It's about creating a system that's both innovative and safe.
And one that puts patients at the heart of it all.
Exactly. And it's exciting to see that both ABPI and the government seem to be on the same page here.
I agree.
There's a real sense of momentum.
Definitely.
Like the UK is on the cusp of something truly transformative.
I hope so.
Okay, so we've got this ambitious vision, we've got these bold reforms. But what does it all mean for the average person? How will these changes actually impact the lives of patients in the UK?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And the answer is that it has the potential to be incredibly impactful.
Yeah.
It really could be a game changer.
So let's break it down. What could these changes actually mean for someone who's, let's say, waiting for a new treatment? or maybe hoping to participate in a clinical trial?
Well, for starters, it could mean faster access to those really innovative medicines.
Okay.
If the UK becomes a more attractive place for those clinical trials, we're going to see more of those cutting-edge therapies being tested here.
Right.
So that means UK patients could have the chance to participate in those trials and potentially benefit from those new treatments sooner.
I mean, that's huge. I can imagine how exciting that would be for someone facing a serious illness, to know that they could be one of the first to access a potentially life-saving treatment.
Absolutely. It offers real hope.
Yeah.
And it's not just about speed either. It's about choice.
Choice.
A more competitive clinical trial environment means there are more trials to choose from, so patients are more likely to find one that's right for their specific needs.
So it's like having a bigger menu, a wider range of possibilities.
Exactly.
It gives patients more control over their own healthcare journey.
Exactly. That's the goal.
And what about the NHS?
Yeah.
How could these changes impact the National Health Service?
Well, a thriving life sciences sector means more investment in research and development, and that ultimately leads to better treatments and a healthier population.
Makes sense.
So this could help take some of the pressure off the NHS and ensure that it can keep providing that high-quality care for years to come.
It's like a ripple effect.
It is.
Investment in life sciences benefits everyone.
Exactly. Patients, the healthcare system, the economy, it's all connected.
And it all hinges on having a strong regulator. The MHRA plays such a vital role.
It does. They're the ones ensuring that those new treatments are safe and effective before they're made available to everyone.
They're like the gatekeepers.
Exactly. They're protecting the patients and making sure the science is sound.
And these reforms we've been talking about, it sounds like they're giving the MHRA the tools and resources it needs to do its job even better.
I think so. It's not just about being fast or innovative. It's about being responsible.
It's about finding that balance between encouraging progress and keeping patients safe.
Absolutely. It's a delicate balance.
But it sounds like the UK is on the right track.
I think so, too.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today. And I have to say, I'm feeling pretty optimistic about all of this. It's inspiring to see so much focus on making the UK a leader in the world of medicine.
I agree. It's really encouraging.
And for all of you listening out there, we hope this deep dive has given you a glimpse into this exciting future for UK medicine.
It's a future that's being shaped right now.
So stay informed, keep asking questions, and make sure your voice is heard.
The future of medicine is a team effort, and we all have a part to play.
That's right. Until next time, keep diving deep.